So it's very lovely to be speaking to you, Catherine, today.
You as well.
I'm very excited to be talking to you because, we just got the season three premiere for Motherland Fort Salem, and Petra is in a very different place than she was when we first met her in season one. It was quite impactful of an episode for her, not only like as a general now and a mother, but Fort Salem is the site of the war. So can you tell us a little bit more about what can we expect from Petra as she adjusts to being general?
Well, Petra ain't having a good first day on the job. Like, for real, for real. Like, I mean, it's that whole thing about be careful what you wish for, you just might get it. So she now has the job she wants, but her daughter has been accused of this terrible crime. And she now has to balance her responsibilities as a mother against her responsibilities to the country and to her soldiers. She has all of these competing allegiances and alliances that she has to contend with while still trying to maintain her truth and maintain her core of character, which I think has been her strength all the way along in her progression. So yeah, she's got a lot to manage and an awareness of how all the pieces fit in and what those risks about the Jenga game of tackling any one of them causing a ripple effect through the others. So it's really a powerfully crafted arc for her this season, and I'm really honored to be a part of it because I think it's really important.
I'm excited to see what happens with your character as we move further into the season, especially because it seemed like we were making progress with the witch's plague vaccine. And then it starts raining plague, which is a completely different. I don't even know how you would combat that. I know Petra's a weather witch, but was Fort Salem the main site of the war for her, or can we expect her doing some work in the field like she had once done?
We can expect to see Petra places other than Fort Salem.
Okay. Does that mean perhaps some discussion with the president?
That would be telling. But as the president is her boss, you know,
Okay.
that, that
She's Petra's such a force. So it is interesting seeing that last shot in the premiere where she's been holding together and she crumbles. What has that balancing act been for you? Being like the fierce general, but also being a mother who's so used to control and now doesn't have any control when it comes to her daughter.
I think that's part of the beautiful gift that the writing team have given me, in that Petra is so complicated and layered and affected by all of her responsibilities that it's not easy for her. She doesn't just handle it and move on and toss her hair. She has to navigate these things, and they take a toll on her. And I think that's the other thing, is that she's not without feelings. She's not without sensitivity. She's not without emotion. And it would be very easy to, make her into a career-driven automaton who doesn't have those things, and then not. I think she would lose her relatability if she wasn't affected by these challenges and struggling with them. So I find that to be a really important part of who she is, and a gift in playing her.
And so does that also, I feel like this also complicates her relationship with Abigail in terms of the dynamic. And I assume we're going to see more of that play into the storyline. But I was also wondering how she feels about Adil, like the love of her daughters. I'm going to say the love of her life right now, because it does seem like Abigail has found her person. And last season, Petra wasn't quite on board there.
I think part of Petra's journey is moving from a place of where she expects Abigail to be to evolving to where she can receive Abigail where she is. And I think that's part of what we explored, I think, last season with the Minerva Petra Abigail dynamic. And also, I think when what you expect for yourself turns out differently from what you thought it would be, I think that also gives you empathy and understanding about other people's journeys. So I think it's the double whammy of the truths that Minerva told in combination with what it's like to actually get the job you thought you were crafted for, and having all of these challenges and realizing and appreciating how even if you disagree with someone like Alder, you can still appreciate them and appreciate the difference in the combination of your efforts to move things forward. So I think there's been a lot that's caused Petra to evolve. And I think with that evolution comes perhaps a greater appreciation and understanding of Adil and who Adil is for Abigail.
I love that. I like seeing the different layers to Petra as a character because we do start with her. She's very strict. And I think obviously some of that comes from the military upbringing, but also I think she has a better understanding of failure than her daughter does just yet. That Abigail is learning now. Of course, now that Petra is the general, she's definitely going to be dealing with that much more than she had before. You'd said that she got the position in a way that she didn't expect. So what is this absence of Alder by her side in her mind? How's that work? I guess not working. Where did she think she would be?
Well, I think part of Petra's success has been finding the way to add value to Alder's vision. And so I've come to see them as very much a yin and yang, and they kept each other in balance to a degree. And I think anytime you remove the stabilizing force for one or the other, it has this sort of unintended consequence of making them immediately less effective. So, which is not to say Petra was less effective, but I think that she may not have been aware of how much that synergy of her working with Alder contributed to how she saw things and was able to navigate things. And I think she legitimately misses Alder. I think we see that in the first episode. And I think it becomes part of her personal loss that she's navigating along with all these other challenges that keep emerging and unfolding. And I think her go-to would have been to seek counsel or create strategy with Alder. And that's part of why she was so successful. That whole dynamic's been removed from her.
I'm now sad on her behalf. I do think the more that we learn about Petra, the more sympathetic she becomes as a character. I do think that as a leader, she listens more than Alder did. And so it's interesting seeing her speak to the other different witches to see how do we move forward. But I also love, she's very, very fierce. She's from the Bellweather line. I know you can't tease too much, but can we be expecting some amazing work from Petra, things that we haven't seen her do just yet?
There's definitely stuff we haven't seen Petra do this season. She's not as predictable as one might take her to be. I think her savviness, I think her and her soldier training we see. Yeah. So I don't know if that's a satisfying answer because I'm thinking about how can I offer things without giving away spoilers. So it's that double shuffle of thought as I try to answer you. But yes, there's we see Petra in ways that we haven't seen her before.
Awesome. It is satisfying because she does have that great line at the beginning of the premiere where she's talking and she says, she just wants to spend the morning crafting something. She just wants to dispel what's hanging over Fort Salem. And I realized we actually haven't seen Petra do some of the work that has been so amazing on the show. So I really want to delve into what her abilities are and more of the Bellweather history. Well, maybe as we go along with her in the season, do we get a little more of a glimpse of the past from them?
We definitely see some more of all the things that combine to make Minerva, Petra, and now Abigail into who they are. There's definitely some of that comes up.
Oh, great. Because they're such a powerful family. The most powerful witches in the witches army. And I think that's so amazing because it's a matriarchy, but it's also very powerful Black women who
Yeah.
have so much power in this army, but also so much weight to carry.
And like real talk, that is so allegorical to the times we are in and the contributions that have been made, both historically and in the present day politically. The power of Black women is not only explored but celebrated in this world. And I hold so much hope and gratitude because we have been written to a satisfying third season conclusion that people will find and still see that imagery as part of the legacy of Motherland Fort Salem, that people will start the series 5 years from now because they know it goes somewhere and doesn't just end. And they will continue to get installments of powerful, empowered Black women with agency and clarity and leadership and community and all of these things which we've experienced, but we need to make sure are amplified to the broader community. And I am so grateful to Motherland Fort Salem for being an agent of that expansion of awareness.
And complexity. Because it is an army that you're conscripted into. And the Salem Accords are analogous in some ways to the slave codes. And that's that is an interesting historical point that the show doesn't play with as much, but to see that on the side of like, this was the way to freedom. And then they're also, and the way to arise in power. And then to also see how complicated that is within the witch dynamic between the US and the witches in general, and what it means to be someone who fights for your country, but also does not have a choice in doing so.
Again, the allegories run deep in this whole series. And the other element to that is how, when you consider the timeline from writing to going into production to editing to release, how many things have landed both in season 1, season 2, and now in season 3 at the exact time that's the moment we're having in the broader community. It's awe-inspiring to me in terms of what this show is meant to be a voice to and a signpost to and a reflection of and hopefully an answer to in terms of how we navigate some of these challenges. And I think you're right in terms of this conversation that's still forming about how we come to terms with the historical past of indentured personhood. And the different forms that it took, because I think that's part of it. I mean, I think that we have an attachment to it as women, Black women. That's from our experience and our legacy. But I also think that we don't explore the parallels to galvanize support for the change and evolution required. Martin Luther King was as much a champion of racial equity as he was economic equity. And I think that we see today the need to show people what we have in common as a pathway to solutions as opposed to the separation. And I think Motherland Fort Salem does a great job in terms of trying to be an inclusive world where people see their spot in it while they have a common enemy, as opposed to, and I think that's part of what we see with the sort of spree in the army sorting themselves out to deal with the camarilla, is that you can have your differences, but you also still have to know where you're allied.
And you can definitely feel that. I think that with a lot of the storytelling in Motherland Fort Salem, it opens the discussion. It may not finish it or close the discussion, but it opens it. And I think the interesting thing about season 3 is the complication of the difference between the spree and the army, and then their commonalities. And Abigail was sort of seeing that in the premiere, and I assume Petra is going to start feeling that, the commonalities as well.
Petra benefited from spree work in the first episode, right? That conversation with her daughter, which is what she needed to happen for her own mental and emotional well-being, happened courtesy of spree work with that mirror. So I think that that is not lost on her.
That's exciting. I can't wait for what's to come for Motherland for Salem season 3. But I also want to talk to you about your other work because I know that you're approaching 150 film and TV credits, which is an amazing accomplishment, by the way. And I wanted to know, do you have a favorite genre or do you just like playing in different worlds?
I love playing in different worlds. One of the beautiful things about Petra has been I've gotten to be in this world longer than most of my other characters. So that has been a unique and special gift. But I also love the range of characters I've been able to add my 2 cents to, and how they have shaped worlds, shaped stories, shaped perceptions. From when I started and was told, you'll play a lot of nurses, to being able to play empowered women in leadership roles with agency and clarity and complexity. I've really been a beneficiary of a really great time to have this as my craft. And I'm really grateful for how many stories I've been included in telling.
Well, it's not just that, but also what I love about your career when I was researching for the interview was the amount of work that you've done also behind the scenes as an educator and someone who provides resources to those who are just starting in their craft. I know that you have the dramaclass.com and bizbooks.net. And BizBooks has been around since 96. So how has that shifted for you, as time has gone on and the industry has changed?
Well, BizBooks started as a bricks and mortar store. We actually had 2 different locations on Cordova Street in Vancouver. And I learned a lot about community, about being of service, about, contributing to people in unexpected ways to try and help them bring their creative goals and dreams to fruition. And so that was really meaningful. There were so many people who lined up to help me in what was perceived widely as an impossible business to make a living in. And yet people showed me how to learn about the industry and learn about my job and learn about managing my professional relationships and learning about how to add value. And so when thanking them for the contributions they made to my career and asking what I could do for them, they said, pay it forward. And I've taken that very seriously from the first mentors who offered that kindness to me. It's why I teach. I feel teaching makes me a better actor because it makes me clearer on my skill set in order to offer it in service to my students and my clients. And I also feel that our role as storytellers is so critically important, especially in turbulent times. I think the first draft of history is the news. The second draft is the textbook. But the meaningful imprint on society is what is interpreted by the storytellers. That's what moves the culture forward. That's what redresses past wrongs. That's what is often the intersection with the broader community of the facts of these stories and the importance that they play, right or wrong, in our development as culture and society. So I feel now is a super important time to be supporting new artists and storytellers to come forward to help as we try to make sense of these times we're in and offer the stories of comfort, guidance, education, inspiration forward so that people can use that as the information on which they make their next right choice.
That was actually very stunning. It just beautifully put, because I do think that storytellers give you digestible history. They put the heart back into the facts. So I love the work that you're doing through the dramaclass.com and bizbooks.net because it does, like you said, to be of service and to be of community also means to help being part of the tapestry of our history, and to help people better articulate the stories that they want to tell. I think that's beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And then, so what advice would you give to someone who is maybe not just starting, but feels like they've hit a block? They feel like, we are in turbulent times, and how do I push past that to dig back into the work?
So I have a couple of offers. One of my main offers when I start working with a coaching client is that this is a structure that's existed for a long time, this business, but that it feeds into so many different aspects. And the more awareness you have about those aspects, the more empowered you are to make choices and decisions and be purposeful and intentional in your career, as opposed to reactive and responsive. So oftentimes actors gravitate to both the creativity that they enjoy in storytelling, and they receive it from a number of different places. So as an actor, receive storytelling inspiration from song and poetry and dance and fine art and paintings and sculpture and all sorts of places that enliven the creativity within me. The next step is exploring creating a craft out of that, taking that creative inspiration and making it into a workable craft to offer, to collaborate with. So those are the first two things that most people instinctively gravitate to. And I call those the first two C's. And that's often where people's development ends. And I like to offer a paradigm where there's two other additional C's that become super important if you're going to make this your calling, your career path. And those other two C's are about commerce, understanding the business, understanding who has the money, how the money is made, how the money is. And again, it's not about over commercializing yourself, but it is about understanding your worth in the context of the structure of this industry, this business. We would no sooner expect a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant to not get paid for the service they provide. And they understand how that works. We as artists often don't understand the mechanisms by which a television show gets financed or a movie goes into distribution. And so understanding that becomes very clarifying in terms of one's place in that mechanism. And then the fourth C I consider to be communication. And so much of our opportunity now as artists in this moment is also a responsibility that we don't necessarily comfortably gravitate towards. And that's doing things like this, speaking with and appreciating and communicating with the people who are receiving our work, or how do we speak with our agents, and how do we speak with our collaborators on set, and how do we speak with our social media platforms, and how do we respectfully add value and information and context and appreciation through those effective channels. And a lot of people shy away from doing that because it's not scripted, because social media is a digital tattoo and you don't want to make a misstep. But often that insecurity creates the very results they're trying not to have happen. So being of service to helping people become more comfortable and just meeting up here on Zoom and saying thank you for loving our show, and it's so great to be able to hear why it's important to you, is part of what our role should be as artists and actors. So that's some of the advice I would give, which is, in a nutshell, learn about the other two C's. Keep doing your development in creativity and craft, but learn about the commerce and learn about how to better communicate with everyone you need to.
Those two C's are very impactful, very much so. And I think you're right. That is where it breaks down for a lot of people who want to move forward with their work, but also just want to be able to put their work on a plate and walk away and have everyone consume it. And that has not been the way anything has ever worked, and it's uncomfortable. But I love the communication part of this, because it means I also get to speak to you, Catherine, and we get to unpack the craft and storytelling and the work in general. So I have one last question for you, and is what's next for you after Motherland Fort Salem? And is it on the CW? Because you've popped up on a few Arrowverse shows.
Well, I always love an invitation from the CW folks. They are delightful to work with and have been very, very kind and supportive to me. So I'm happy to go back anytime they call. Currently, I'm working on a feature film that I'm not allowed to divulge too much about, but it has been a lovely next job as I move away from the Fort Salem of it all. So I'm really grateful that I've landed in such a wonderful new world as I transition away from my old home. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what's next. I'm excited to be developing more workshops through the drama class. I'm excited to be having time to read more of those books I've been ordering in for everybody else because it's been so busy with scripts, and I'm excited to be introduced to more stories that I get to help and share, and more new characters to get to live inside their skin for a little bit. So yeah, it's an exciting time for Kat.
That sounds awesome. And we will be on the lookout for that feature
Thank
film.
you. Thank you. And I really appreciate your support in helping us amplify how much the work on Motherland Fort Salem meant to us. And the Motherland Fort Salem fandom has been unlike anything I've ever experienced. And I'm so grateful for the love and appreciation we've received for our work, and us as people. And it is not taken for granted. It is not assumed. It is not unnoticed, and it's not unappreciated. So just very heartily a thank you for the work you do in telling about us, and for the fans in general for being so gracious and kind to us.
One of the best fandoms in the world, for sure.
It really is. It's like all those credits on the list. This has been a completely different experience from anything I've had the privilege of being a part of before. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, again, it was great talking to you, Catherine. I love that we had this discussion.
Thank you. Look forward to our next one.